scholars. Today is, I don't have my paper. What is today, actually? Do we know? Today must be Sunday. Oh, it's Monday. Oh, I don't think I did the date last night. Sorry, guys. I'm sure you'll get over it somehow. It's the 14th. Today is Monday, April the 14th. The 6th week of Lent, and actually only a few days of Lent, and then we're moving into, it's Holy Week, essentially, guys. It's Holy Week. And I think we have, counting today, I think we have 3 days left of Lent. And then comes Monday, Thursday, it's the Triduum. So can we move the skull and see if there's one, counting today, 1, 2, yeah, so maybe we can kind of fudge it, getting...
That would be 40. So if I go back 3.
See, the issue is there's a discrepancy with the numbers inside of Egypt, and then there's some numbers right up to the land of Canaan. So what does it show us on now? Like, does it show the number? Can you read it, or is it too small?
30 something.
30 something.
Deflation.
So would 2 more days, like Wednesday, should either be 38 or it could be 40, because I think the numbers go to 42. I think the numbers go to 42. I'll have to check it out when I get home. But anyway, guys, the point is we're moving through the desert, and we're almost done. We're almost out of this thing. This beaver galleon is sailing. How's the sailing going for you, Joe?
Not so well.
Oh, you might notice we're not in the normal place today. We're at a Dungeons and Dragons table down in the underworld. And we have the door open. I can see out into the beautiful mountains. Quite lovely. And yeah, we have skulls here from Memento Mori. You can enjoy that. Do we have any other images we're supposed to put up? We just have the going through the desert thing. I think that's it. Oh, hey, look what else we've got here, guys. A little rum. Oh, yeah, it's just kicking over here this morning. I went by the place we usually do at the pottery shop, and there's like 8 guys in there at the table, like having a meeting, like middle-aged guys or something. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe I misread it. Maybe it was older women whose hair's grown out more. That happens sometimes, but I couldn't see it perfectly. Folks, we are on a very interesting part of this beaver trip here. God's knowledge of himself and God's knowledge of us. This stuff is deceptively important, or deceptively not important. How would you put that? It seems not as important as it actually is. The confusion that not understanding it can bring is greater, and the problems that can come from it are greater than it seems. But I'll touch on that. Oh, I was also going to say good news of encouragement, which I think I've already told you, Joe, about the professor that I don't want to name because it was a private conversation, but our conversation after Mass. I don't think I did tell you. Okay, so I'm going to use, because he watches every day, I'm going to use veiled language because it was a private conversation and he did not give me permission to say it. But there's a certain professor, teacher, not like a high school teacher, but like a advanced teacher, who has watched the program and said something. He said something, I think, about being lucky. And we were just kind of in the flow of conversation. There are people moving all around, and I guess I didn't quite grasp what he meant, because I said, yeah, I know. I'm extremely lucky because I'm getting to have this every day, and it's helping me and the friends that he goes, no. We're lucky because you have an ability like Bishop Barrett to take these things that are difficult to understand and express them in such a way that it becomes finally clear, like finally understanding the Summa and St. Thomas in a way never before. And it's very engaging. And the dude just started like saying nice things. And this is a man that doesn't easily say nice things. You have to actually have done something. You know, he doesn't just dole out comments like Tic Tacs. And he's also a man that I highly respect as one who has numerous areas of expertise, and I've seen his craft and ability working on a very high and surprising level. And so, and also I know that he knows the real world. He's not just egghead school guy. I know that he knows how to hang out with ladies and gentlemen and crowds and by himself. So it's a man I very much respect. So folks, that was a very great encouragement, which of course I need at this beginning phase of this project. And I was also encouraged because one of the things I said yesterday, guys, concerning knowledge of God and how it is within himself and how you have to have a experiential understanding really to increase in that. Many of the things I said was reiterated this morning as I read some notes in a book that I just received last night that I've never read before. So I didn't read it, what I was saying yesterday. I finally got Peter Kreeft's Summa of the Summa. And when I read what he said about what I taught about yesterday, he said the same thing. He said mystics can understand this knowledge, but it's very difficult to come through it through the academic level. And you can meet in the middle, and it's exactly what I said. So coming to the same conclusions as the venerable Dr. Peter Kreeft is also a great encouragement. So I hope that's an encouragement maybe to some of you who are watching, because I don't look like your average teacher. I look like either bum on the street or hippie musician or whatever you want to put on the thing. So we'll see how this continues to go, and if God continues to bless me with ability to teach. And if not, I can scoot on down the road and go camping. Not have to wake up so early in the morning. All right, we are on question 14, finishing up Article 5 and moving into Article 6. Article 5 was whether God knows things other than himself. We'll go ahead and finish the reply to objection 3 and then move into the meat of what we're doing here in Article 2. Also, please forgive me. I've done 2 moves recently, one from the Hermitage to here into that house I was in before, and then now another move over into another place, and my stuff is scattered. I don't know where my leather thing is that I use to mark my places. Things are kind of out of sorts right now. Today is a day of putting things back in order, I hope. Reply to objection 3 at the bottom of 152. Reply to objection 3 from Article 5. The intellectual act is not specified by what is understood in another, but by the practical object understood, in which other things are understood. For the intellectual act is specified by its object, inasmuch as the intelligible form is the principle of the intellectual operation. Since every operation is specified by the form which is its principle of operation, as heating by heat, hence the intellectual operation is specified by that intelligible form which makes the intellect which makes the intellect in act. And this is the image of the principal thing understood, which in God is nothing but his own essence, in which all images of things are comprehended. Hence, it does not follow that the divine intellectual act, or rather God himself, is specified by anything else than the divine essence itself. Guys, we've said this over and over. It's pretty much the basis philosophically and thematically and substantially of what I said yesterday. So if you're tuning in for the first time, go watch yesterday's thing. It's the same principles. So we might as well just move on. Because remember, if you're just joining us, the Daily Summa is about catechesis and camaraderie. It's about hanging out with the fellows. It's about having theology to talk about with your fellow students of the Summa instead of just Netflix and just sports. Talk about those things too. Talk about your D&D game. It's awesome. But to also be able to get together with your friends and talk about the Daily Summa. What did you think about that page today? What do you think about what Thomas is saying? And it's also, as I said yesterday regarding the logo, it's about using this straw to enkindle contemplation. Oh, I can bring up the thing I've been wanting to say for about 4 or 5 days, but never got to. And this fits perfectly with what I'm saying. It's not about the Summa, it's about the daily. It's about going through the trial of getting up daily and studying this stuff and having your head in the catechesis. As our brother Jakob says about the Daf Yomi, it's not about the Summa, it's about the daily meditation. And considering that, listen to what Brother Lawrence has to say from his book, Practice of the Presence of God. Probably a premier spiritual book that everyone should have. He says, we have to know someone before we can truly love them. Now, of course, that's coming from St. Augustine, but still. We have to know someone before we can truly love them. In order to know God, we must think about him often. And once we get to know him, we will think about him even more often. Because where our treasure is, there also is our heart. That's a brilliant and inspired way to use that scripture. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be. He's connecting it with how often you think about God. The more you think about God, the more you will treasure him. And then your heart will line up with your thinking and your words. And you will come to love him more. And that's exactly what we have on our logo. The book, see, it's all straw. Turn the straw on fire, though, by meditation in the rosary and other ways of meditating, thinking about what we've studied today. And then that becomes the contemplative dove under the staircase with the fire of the Holy Spirit over her head. Moving on to Article 6, guys. Whether God knows things other than himself by proper knowledge. Strange terminology. Is Thomas English all of a sudden? God have proper knowledge. That's the proper knowledge we have of God then. So what does he mean? Ryan Budd, let us see in the comments. I'd like to hear your opinion of what the word propria, proper, is in Latin and how Thomas is using it. Propria cognitione. Let's hear it, Ryan Budd. I mean, you got to use your premium, some useful, you know. Objection 1. Let's see what Larry has to say. It seems that God does not know things other than himself by proper knowledge. For, as was shown in Article 5, God knows things other than himself according as they are in himself. But other things are in him as in their common and universal cause, and are known by God as in their first and universal cause. Okay, so guys, this is going to be a little difficult to understand today. And I would guess even Peter Kreeft, I noticed Peter Kreeft's section on this is very small, doesn't go into a great deal of detail on it. And that's okay. Remember, this is a flyover. You don't have to understand everything. And even the experts on this stuff, you have to repeat it over and over. It's like playing guitar. If you don't repeat your lessons over and over, you get rusty on it. So don't expect to hear it for the first time and just be able to play like, Segovia or something. All right. This is to know them by general and not by proper knowledge. Therefore, God knows things besides himself by general and not by proper knowledge. Larry is saying, from what Thomas said before, that in God, in his essence, is the principle of all being. So we are, as I said yesterday, in God's essence, as like a acorn to an oak tree. We are deep in God's heart, and he knows everything. But he's trying to ask the question, but wait a minute. Doesn't that mean he just knows us generally? Just like a nature, human nature. We all share human nature. So is to know Jill the same as knowing Joe? To know Mr. Davenport in England, is that the same as to know Mr. Goldstein in Israel? So the question is, does God know us particularly, properly? Does he know us each individual way and thing? And that's going to be a very big question, because the old devil, Slewfoot, can get in there and has got in there and corrupted people's belief that God knows you and cares about you. That's a very important combat to have to take care of, because once you can convince someone that that's not the case, boom, 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 many other strongholds can fall after that. You can get someone more and more distant from their family, more and more distant from their friends, more and more distant from their country. So this is kind of important stuff. All right. Objection 2. Further, the created essence is as distant from the divine essence as the divine essence is distant from the created essence. So here is the devil getting into Ralph and trying to establish distance between us and God. But the divine essence cannot be known by the created essence, as said above in question 12, article 2. Therefore, neither can the created essence be known by the divine essence. Thus, as God knows only by his essence, it follows that he does not know what the creature is in its essence, so as to know what it is, which is to have proper knowledge of it. Ralph, been getting into some Freemasonry or something down. We gotta check this. We can't have this spreading through the Beaver Gallon. That God should know you particularly as a father knows the son and loves his son. Can't have that, the devil says. And Thomas is going to have to get on to him later. All right, objection 3. Further, proper knowledge of a thing can come only through its proper ratio. But as God knows all things by his essence, it seems that he does not know each thing by its proper ratio. For one thing cannot be the proper ratio of many and diverse things. Therefore, God has not a proper knowledge of things, but a general knowledge. For to know things otherwise than by their proper ratio is to have only a common and general knowledge of them. All right, so these guys are making a case for God. Okay, we'll give it to him. He's got a general knowledge of things, but he doesn't properly know you and us. We'll have to see what Thomas has to say. On the contrary, let's hear the argument from authority. To have a proper knowledge of things is to know them not only in general, but as they are distinct from each other. Now, God knows things in that manner. Hence, it is written that he reaches even to the division of the soul and the spirit, of the joints also and the marrow, and is a discerner of thoughts and intents of the heart. Neither is there any creature invisible in his sight. That is the argument from authority. God knows each of us individually. He knows our hearts completely, and he knows the intentions of the hearts. Now, realize that Thomas is departing from Aristotle here. Aristotle did not believe that. Aristotle was more kind of the force. May the force be with you. There's a force that created all things. And Aristotle came about this by reason. Just reasoning back from watching motion and cause and effect. That's why some of the atheists are coming to say things. And guys, I mean, not to pat myself on the back, but I called this a few years ago. I was like, there's probably going to come something like Christian atheism. And I linked it to, what was it in Egypt? Sorcery. because I was like, these guys are having too many conversations, and it's becoming through YouTube, through the internet. It's becoming too clear what Thomas's arguments actually are. You can have someone like Dawkins or Hitchens misunderstand it. It's very easy to misunderstand. It's very difficult to understand Thomas's 5 ways. It takes time and effort. So you can have someone like these new atheists who just breeze through it and they're like, this is stupid. And they write a book saying this is stupid and make videos. Thomas's argument doesn't work. And they're able to do that back in the 90s, back in the 2000s perhaps, but things are getting too clear through the internet, and everyone's able to hear the arguments more deeply and more repetitively. So those things are falling away. And I saw that coming, and I was like, there's going to be a day that they understand this argument. But remember, Thomas's argument only gives you the philosophical God. It doesn't give you Yahweh. It doesn't give you Jesus as his son. So I was like, what's going to happen is they're going to get back to the source of things. That they're going to see that there is some unmovable mover. There must be. It only makes scientific sense. They're going to see that. They're sure as shit not going to call it the Jewish God and Jesus, who tells you not to masturbate, not to fornicate, don't watch things on. You have to have a family and take care of them and sacrifice your money for your brother and all this stuff you have to do. You have to go to church and synagogue on Sunday and Shabbat. They're not going to link it to all that. It requires too much of you. But they will still link it to the source. And that's why I started calling it sorcery. And now they call it atheistic Christianity or something. In a way, it's bad, because after I thought of this, I started thinking about it. Is this bad or good? And of course, just like everything, I arrived at the conclusion that it's both. For some people, it's going to be worse. And for some people, it's going to be better, because it's going to be a stepping stone to the fullness of truth. But just remember, guys, this is important stuff, and it affects how you live your life. Catechesis is important. The devil was able to get so many people out of the church from the new atheist thing because of their ignorance. Scripture says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. All right. I answer that. Some have erred on this point, understatement, Thomas, saying that God knows things other than himself only in general, that is, only as beings. For as fire, if it knew itself as the principle of heat, would know the nature of heat, and all things else in so far as they are not hot, or are hot, excuse me. So God, through not knowing himself as the principle of being, knows the nature of being, and all other things insofar as they are beings. But this cannot be, for to know a thing in general and not in particular is to have an imperfect knowledge. Hence, our intellect, when it is reduced from potentiality to act, acquires first a universal and confused knowledge of things before it knows them in particular. This goes back to the thing I said, when you walk outside, first thing your mind apprehends is being. You don't think of it that way, but you apprehend that there's existence happening. And then you apprehend a pear tree. And then you begin, in a confused way, you see all the parts, and then you come to recognize the wholeness of understanding a pear tree. Then you can go and understand all the separate parts. Then you can understand them in their various degrees of perfection, just like a botanist would in the lab, etc. As proceeding from the imperfect to the perfect, as in the physics. If, therefore, the knowledge of God regarding things other than himself is only universal and not special, it would follow that his understanding would not be absolutely perfect. Therefore, neither would his being be perfect. And this is against what was said in Question 4, Article 1. We must therefore hold that God knows things other than himself with a proper knowledge, not only insofar as being is common to them, but insofar as one is distinguished from the other. He knows the difference between Joe and Craig. In proof, therefore, we may observe that some, wishing to show that God knows many things by one, bring forward some examples, as for instance, that if the center knew itself, it would know all lines that proceed from the center, using geometry metaphor to try to understand this principle of God knowing all things, both essentially or in general and in the particulars. Or another example people have thought of, or if light knew itself, it would know all colors. And then Thomas is going to not quite like that example. He says it doesn't go far enough, it's not perfect enough. So here's what Thomas adds to it. Now, these examples, although similar in part, namely as regards universal causality, I told you guys this gets a little hard to grasp, but it's okay. We can get through this little squall on the Beaver Galleon and be about our day, and then meditate on these things. And repetition is the mother of learning. And as these things and concepts are repeated, you'll come to understand them more. Nevertheless, they fail in this regard, or this respect, that multitude and diversity are caused by the one universal principle, not as regards that which is the principle of distinction, but only as regards that in which they communicate. For the diversity of colors is not caused by the light only, but by the different dispositions of the diaphanous medium which receives it, like a prism. And likewise, the diversity of the lines is caused by different positions on the paper. Thomas doesn't like it because what Thomas wants to say is God doesn't just know you separate from other people, and he doesn't just know the thoughts and intentions of your heart outside himself or as a position or through another medium like a prison. He knows it directly within himself deeply. He knows you in all these ways. That's why Thomas is not quite completely jazzed by these examples. So he's going to try to go further with it. But it's getting into very deep stuff and hard to explain. You're trying to explain spiritual realities in God with material metaphors, which is exactly what a metaphor is for. So there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's why God created the universe and the world, that we might have a series of semiotic relationships that we can begin to piece together and come to know him. So it's altogether appropriate. And that's the whole point of this thing. But just realize the difficulty of the mountain we're trying to climb here. We're trying to get from a piece of matter and use it to try to explain the Most High eternal God. Hence it is that this kind of diversity and multitude cannot be known in its principle by proper knowledge, but only in a general way, the light and the prism and the lines going out from the center. In God, however, it is otherwise. For it was shown above, question 4, article 2, that whatever perfection exists in any creature wholly pre-exists and is contained in God in an excellent manner. That's where we have the breakdown. Thomas says, excellent manner. If you had a atheist in a debate with Thomas, if I was the atheist debating Thomas, that's where I'd push him. What do you mean by excellent manner? Because the atheist, I would know that he can't explain that very well. So you push him on it just to make it sound like he doesn't know what he's saying. But he has said it quite well. All these things exist in God in an excelling manner in the highest way possible within the heart and mind of God. Now, not only what is common to creatures, that is being, belongs to their perfection, but also what makes them distinguished from each other as living and understanding and the like, whereby living beings are distinguished from the non-living and the intelligent from the non-intelligent. Likewise, every form whereby each thing is constituted in its own species is a perfection. And thus all things pre-exist in God, not only as regards what is common to all, but also as regards what distinguishes one thing from another. And therefore, as God contains all perfections in himself, the essence of God is compared to all other essences of things, not as the common to the proper, as unity is to numbers, or as to the center of a circle to the radiating lines, but as perfect acts to imperfect. So stop there. God is saying all of our difference and our separateness is related to God as an imperfect act to a perfect act. So that's saying something very deep that doesn't go over into the Gnostic camp. It's saying that you are a part of God and that you are a limited expression of his perfection. That's what the Jew means when it says in our neshama, that the rabbis will always say, in our neshama is a spark of God. It's an actual piece of God. That's one way of saying it. That's a more simple way of saying it. But think of what Thomas is saying. Each of us has a perfection in us that is a lesser revelation of the full perfection that is from the deity. That's what makes us special. That's what makes us in the image and likeness of the Creator. And that's why we don't go around murdering people willy-nilly. And that's why the theist is always going to press the atheist on this moral question. What reason do you have for not killing other people or not burning homosexuals at the stake? Or what reason do you have? The reason we have is that we are a revelation of the perfection of God, and he is holding his own perfection together, or a bit of his own perfection together in being and letting us share in it. It's the very life of God, and he is holy and pure and beautiful. It would be like destroying a little child who's having fun playing with dandelions and you shoot him in the head. I realize that's gross, but I'm trying to wake you up to the situation. God is pure and holy and innocent and kind and good, and he's sharing that with us. It's inappropriate to kill it. The atheist has no reason like that. Okay, but a perfect act as to imperfect. Now, Thomas is going to try to give a metaphor. As if I were to compare man to animal, or 6 as a perfect number, to the imperfect numbers contained under it. He'll go back to that and flesh it out a little more. Now it is manifest that by a perfect act, imperfect acts can be known not only in general, but also in proper knowledge. Thus, for example, whoever knows a man knows an animal by proper knowledge. If you know what it is to be a man, you know what it is to be an animal. You have that knowledge and a higher knowledge, but you still know what it is when you see your dog out in the yard going to the restroom. You know what that's like. When you see your dog enjoying your food, its food, you go, I know what you feel, how you feel, little buddy. You share that knowledge. Even though you have a greater level of being than the dog does, you still share that lower level. And whoever knows the number 6 knows the number 3, also by proper knowledge. If you, in this thought experiment, you call the number 6 perfect, well, then you may not know 7. You may not know 12.258, but you do know 3. If you understand what 6 is, then you must understand what 3 is. 3 is within 6, and we are within God. As therefore the essence of God contains in itself all the perfection contained in the essence of an... what am I doing? I was just wanting to round out that page. So I was going off into the next. I was just going off into I was enjoying the wind and the sails on this beaver galleon. Guys, we're done with that page. Remember, this is all straw. Go meditate on what I've said. Have a good day.